Thanks for joining me today, Emma, to talk about our home institution, the University of Kent.
Thanks, Anthony. Lovely to be here.
Brilliant, thank you. So let's start by talking a little bit about our roles at the University of Kent. If people don't already know me, I'm the Dean for Internationalisation at Kent, and I work across internationalisation activities linked to education, engagement with our stakeholder groups in different locations, and also promoting internationalisation of our research activity. We have a very comprehensive provision at the University of Kent in terms of our curriculum across 6 different divisions. We've got a main campus in Canterbury, another campus in Medway near London, and we also have locations in Paris and Brussels. Emma, over to you to tell us a bit more about your role.
Yeah, so I'm International Partnerships Officer at the University of Kent, and I personally see that role as twofold. So I work within international partnerships, and we are responsible for developing the institution's new partnership arrangements, working with our existing partners, and part of my remit is supporting the student exchange agreements that we have with our partner institutions outside of Europe. And then the second part of my role, which I personally think is the most interesting and also the most rewarding, is actually working on internationalisation at home initiatives alongside you, Anthony, most primarily the Global Officers Leadership Development Programme, and also developing new collaborative opportunities with our partners, primarily through global learning online and virtual exchange initiatives, which I think is a really important and growing aspect, especially in today's world.
Brilliant.
So on that, Anthony, why do you think internationalisation at home is important?
So for me, internationalisation at home is important because I really think we've got a duty to help all of our students unpack and access the very vibrant and meaningful opportunities that they can derive from learning alongside people from other cultures. And I really think that that needs support and a great deal of activity on our campuses still to support students from different cultures in really coming together to get the best possible value out of that amazing resource that we have through diverse communities on campus. I have had the benefit of living abroad or studying abroad, but we really have to also focus on is supporting students who don't have access to study abroad, which I think is over 90% of our students in the UK at the moment. That's even before COVID-19, helping those students to have an internationalised experience on campus through helping to create opportunities for that through internationalisation at home. What about you in terms of what you think is important in internationalisation at home?
No, I agree with what you're saying there, Anthony. I think I feel very lucky and privileged to sort of like seeing the impact that internationalisation at home has had on our students, and especially those who aren't able to go abroad. And I think we need to be making more opportunities for these students to have those international experiences on campus, and for them to realise maybe they might have their own cultural background or heritage, and to be able to share that openly and to feel like there is space on our campuses and in our institutions for them to have that voice and to help them with their sense of belonging to the campus. And also certainly with virtual exchange projects that the students have been involved with, I think these are giving them the necessary digital literacy skills that are needed for today's job market. And I think it helps them to grow in confidence and working with people in international teams. That is often going to be a common factor, I think, for the future. So I think all of this actually helps students prepare for when they leave university and become members of our society and be able to have an impact that way. And obviously hearing what our partners have also been saying about our own students' active participation in that makes it know that they are really getting something from it. It's not just a number of students are doing this initiative and things like that. I think one of our global officers, she writes a blog post, especially now, about being international. And it's not necessarily about the travel. It's about what can you do in your home environment and understanding on that. So On that question, Anthony, what is Kent's approach to internationalisation at home?
Thanks for asking that question, Emma. I think one good way of describing the work that we do in internationalisation at home at Kent is really to consider it as a network of activity. Kent is a university that has a very strong community feel, and that stretches, I think, across the staff and student communities. And so the way in which we have supported and developed internationalisation at home, as you know, is through trying to collaborate with our academic divisions, trying to work with different groups of students across the university, and also then trying to complement that with centrally devised activities like World Fest, the Global Office's Leadership Development Programme, and trying to promote the concept of COIL, or Global Learning Online. So it's creating a series of events, activities and opportunities that we develop centrally, and also supporting colleagues and students within divisions and other units of the university to internationalise and offer opportunities linked to things like careers, working with our alumni in international regions, and finding new ways of connecting our different communities across different subject areas and with different international support networks and resources, really. So I wonder if I could ask you what is distinctive about our activities in internationalisation at home, and why you think they are successful.
I personally think it's about bringing everything together and making sure that it links up, and that internationalisation isn't just an add-on, and that it can form very much part of the university student experience. So whether we're looking at sustainability or even decolonising the curriculum, it's all those sort of things that actually can all be connected together as an overarching internationalised student experience and part of the internationalisation at home. And I think the Global Officers Leadership Development Programme can be also seen as an example of how we do that. So that is a framework for students who are globally minded. We're able to put them into a programme where they then be able to develop their leadership skills, their cultural intelligence, global citizenship, but then the actual activities that they put on. So there is an aspect of internationalised student engagement, and there's also project and event management. It makes it then, our internationalisation at home is actually very student-led. So it's what they want. And I think that is what's the key to success. It's about finding out what your particular student body wants, which I think makes it really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing where it may go from that.
I agree. I think what makes our work distinctive at Kent is that wide range of opportunities that we offer, and the flexibility of the co-curricular opportunity that students are getting more and more involved with. I think also working in other ways within the formal and informal curriculum help us to provide a broad range of opportunities linked to different aspects of the formal or informal curriculum, so that there's something for everybody, and a way for students to get involved in shaping what they want to do if it's not already there in a form that suits them best.
Yeah, I agree, Anthony. It's really all about those different offerings we have for our students.
Can I ask you now at this point, Emma, to tell us a bit more about the challenges that we face in internationalisation at home?
It's really about people's understanding of actually what internationalisation at home is, and trying to get that branding right. I mentioned before about it not being seen as an add-on. It's actually part of everything that we do. You could think about the engagement of bringing home students and international students together, and that doesn't always happen organically. We've had issues with global events, or it's got the word global in or international in the title, and it's whether home students think that that event is for them, or is it just for international students. So all that, I think, can be seen as a challenge. So trying to get them to understand that you want it to be organic, you want friendships to form, you want them to be interested about each other's cultures, background, where they've come from, and maybe even how they then approach that group work, in the classroom. But maybe what is needed is to provide all students with the necessary tools in order to be able to do that. And maybe that's where internationalisation at home comes in. So it's not necessarily always about that event, it's more that journey that all the students go on. And also, I think in terms of the Gold programme, staff can really get engaged with that, because we have the book and officer functionality. So it allows then staff and departments to think about what activities they are doing and whether it has that sort of international stream, or they want that understanding where they can book a global officer and have that brand of a global officer at that event, whether it be an applicant day, an open day, or another international visit, to be able to represent that international elements that they have within their own programme or school or department.
I think what you said about the journey rather than the destination is really key, isn't it? And in a sense, that replicates the challenge of physical mobility or being in another international environment, because it's actually the process of immersing yourself in that experience and dealing with the challenges that you're confronted with around that make it such a transformational experience. So getting people to feel involved in shaping activities and having collaboration with other students helps us to create that opportunity for students to mix with other cultures and do that work that helps them understand each other at the end of the day.
Yeah, and certainly, obviously, now we've got touring coming in, and obviously that may have different opportunities as well available to students, obviously from the mobility point. But then also you think about the diversity coming in, and we were talking earlier about that diverse student body. Obviously now we know that the UK is not going to be part of the new Erasmus programme, so we could see that as another challenge that we have to contend with. But then touring does then also provide an opportunity, and I think we're at the start of a pathway where I think this is a very exciting time for higher education in this sort of area. So obviously I've mentioned some of these political decisions that have now taken place. So Anthony, can I just ask, how well do you feel internationalisation at home is supported by our national higher education and internationalisation strategy?
Well, I think it is pleasing that we do now have in the UK an international higher education strategy, and also that the second iteration of that does refer more explicitly to the importance of international student experience and the kind of community that international students form with our home students. So that is really positive. And I was really encouraged also to see that UKISA was key in shaping that with the government, given the expertise that UKISA, the UK Council of International Student Affairs, has in that space. Obviously, it's very encouraging through touring that we now have scope to fund outgoing mobility to countries beyond Europe. But of course, my concern is the diversity on our campuses, which is something which directly supports internationalisation at home. But we have to think positively and so make the most of it. And it's interesting to hear, I think, that in the future it may be possible to support some aspects of virtual exchange through touring, although I realise that's not happening at the moment. We need to kind of seize those tools that we have available to us and make the most of them. And I certainly hope that those messages in the internationalisation strategy for higher education in the UK helps to fuel investment and support that people like those who are at this conference will be involved with, because internationalisation at home is often not as well supported or funded as other activities, and I think it should probably be more in focus than it is across the sector. What I wanted to ask you next is around the current situation that we're in linked to the pandemic. I wondered how you might think that has caused us to learn and change our practice during that period.
Well, for me, I certainly feel that internationalisation at home carried on whether there was a pandemic or not, and I certainly still am very busy with everything that, and the opportunities that it provides. And I think that's really important to note, because if travelling does stop, and that's what's happened this past year, we haven't been able to have those traditional mobility opportunities. We have had that more heavy reliance on virtual exchange. Students have been dispersed across the world wherever they either returned home or where they've had to stay. So I think it's trying to think about how technology has actually enabled us to bring all the world much closer together. And students have been able to have conversations with students either in other parts of the world, either because they're working with them on our campus, or just from other institutions as well. They've been able to sort of share their experiences of how the pandemic has affected themselves, how their own social media engagement may have impacted on another student studying in a different country. And we've also thought about the sustainability issues of it and the climate movement. These are obviously some of the virtual exchange projects that our students have actually participated in this year. And it's been really exciting to hear that they've been able to make friends, with people in other countries. We've got a first year student who's made friends with a French student who's then hoping to then go to Paris on their year abroad in their third year.
That's another example then of how internationalisation at home can then lead to deeper opportunities for physical exchange in the future. That's exciting as well.
Yeah, I think it really builds students' confidence in embarking on that as well. And I think that's going to be really valuable, or even shorter mobility periods if they want to, such as summer schools. And I think for us, we've been able to celebrate that month-long World Fest celebrations digitally. And I think, students have been able to learn a language, learn how to cook dishes, been able to experience music, find out about cultural festivals. And I think in that interview that we held with one of our students, she said, all without putting on your shoes. And I think that was just so wonderful to hear, isn't it?
It's been really eye-opening and enabling in really exciting ways.
Yeah, definitely. I've really found this whole year, really, some of the challenges that you think it might pose, actually, those opportunities are there. So on that, what are your next steps for the development of internationalisation at home?
So for me, Emma, what I'm particularly interested in is continuing to collaborate across the university with our divisions and key colleagues. We've just been through a restructure which has streamlined many of our areas of provision, and so making new contacts in new ways to support that, particularly with our student experience officers across the university to see how we can link up what happens centrally with what happens within divisions to make that more and more systematic and complementary, I think is something that is particularly of interest to me. I'm interested in continuing to learn, of course, from the wider internationalisation at home community, and this conference is a perfect opportunity for that. We also have a new book coming out on internationalisation at home, which is based on our previous conference, and I'm excited to share that with the community more and more, and certainly being involved with these interviews with colleagues around the world has been really eye-opening, and I've learned a lot from that. So hoping to continue to do that, to learn from our students, to learn from our colleagues on campus, and to learn from the wider practice of colleagues around the world who are so engaged in the kind of rich tapestry of activity in this area, so that we can all promote it more and raise the profile of the importance of it.
Still lots to be done then.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me today, Emma, and for sharing what we do at the University of Kent. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks, Anthony, and you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.